With war rolling at the start, we here to bring the truth. Jar open this podcast, we breaking through the fake news. They try to silence us, but we will be subdued. We're bearded alpha males here to save the youth. Spitting fire on the mic with the bass Christian takes. Exposing the lies, keeping the demons at bay. We ain't afraid to speak up, we won't be swayed. Jar open this podcast, where the truth is laid. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas up, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. We ain't playing games, we're on a mission to awaken the masses with our intuition. Pulling out the corruption with no inhibition. Draw open this podcast, sparking a revolution. We're not afraid to stand tall in a world full of deceit. We're the voice of reason, bringing light to the street. Keeping it real, never missing a beat. Jar open this podcast, where the truth meets the heat. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas up, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. Jar open this podcast, where the truth will never cease. Join us on the journey to bring back peace. We're rolling Atlas thugs, fearless in our release. Jar open this podcast, where the lies will decrease.
All right. Oh, you know what? I'm just ahead. I gotta adjust my camera. Just like see the wall behind me, and that's it.
Word. Looks good now, though.
What's up? How's it going? How's your day been?
It's been good. I actually just saw that we have a bunch of comments in here already. People in here already. Didn't see that. Feels good to have the intro song. Feel like we're in rhythm compared to last show.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not starting off going, what's broken?
Yeah, right. Or staring down, looking at my phone.
Right. What's up, Donnie? What's up, Chris? What's up, Thomas? Let's see here. That worrisome, you better run if you're still here. You commented an hour ago. I doubt you're still around, but that's interesting. What's up? Did I say Donnie, House, Andrea? How you guys doing? Let's see here. You're a great head from Third Rock. That was the great head from Third Rock. I haven't seen that show in such a long time. But that the main character dude was named John Lithgow. He was one of my favorite actors for a while because of that show. Hey, what's up, Harold? How you doing? I know Harold in real life.
Oh, nice. Cool.
He's a buddy.
Avid chicken egg buyer.
Yeah, he comes by. He gets some eggs every once in a while.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Good news day, man. A lot of stuff happened. I tried my best to actually keep in touch with everything that was going on. Looks like we were still getting a lot of the floating. People still irritated from the big soda campaign, the big soda shilling, with like Eric Daughtry and like Clown World and such. Nick Sortor like led a revolt against all those people. Nick Ordering chimed in as well. Now there's like a massive screenshot being shared around, showing not only just from that, but what seemed to be coordinated messaging about like egg prices and such, all from kind of similar accounts. Chad Prather being in every single one of these, going back to like the Epstein files, the egg price one, as well as this new one with Big Soda. And so I guess I say all that just to let the audience be well aware that as much as there is influence campaigns that we can spot and see happening on the left, there are just as many of those that are prevalent that exist on the right. And these people will sell out their platforms for a few dollars, in this case, $1,000 per post, to influence people. This is something I've been talking about for a while, which is, you have to disclose that you're promoting a product, right, with an advertisement and such. I think when it comes to politics, people should also be forced to disclose that they were paid for certain sentiments, right? Maybe not have to disclose who paid them, but at least let somebody know when a video plays, like, hey, just so you're aware, I was paid $2,000 by this company to make this video. That way everyone can have an idea, like, oh, you were paid to do this. This isn't like organic thought by any means.
Yeah, and I saw that some of these guys all came out in unison over the egg prices and over the whole EBT, Coca-Cola, pop soda, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
It's so weird how these people haven't caught on yet that people are looking, people are, aggregating their posts that are related and putting them all on a screen, on one screen, and putting them together in a screenshot. And when these people come out and don't say, when their message is literally, word for word the same as the next guy, it's completely, it's a huge turnoff, right? I'm just, I really, when I see a cat turd post, when I see a clown world post, when I see, Chad Prather, who you mentioned, some of these other folks come out and post anything like that's in the back of my head, like fake grifter, you know what I mean? And it's annoying because a lot of this stuff, I appreciate what they're saying, but at the same time, it's just everything comes with a grain of salt, and it's just disappointing. It's not what you want to see from the the thought leaders or the people that have the most amount of following in the space culturally and politically that you support. And it's just like, and here we are, it's a couple genuine guys. We keep it real. We we're not always right, but we're at least being genuine with our thoughts and what we support and everything like that. And you'll never catch me copying and pasting. I don't care how many followers we have. You'll never catch me copy and pasting, sharing Chat GPT. Just or I don't know if these people are just Chat GPT experts. They know the right prompts to enter in to get like this similar type of response, and that's what they're doing, which I doubt. I really think it's just they're all in a big group chat somewhere, text line, whatever, and they're, what do we want to say about this, and not being too original when it comes to deviating from the original text that comes out, and it's a shame. And you find out that what you said, they were getting paid $1,000 a post or a video or something like that.
What I was going to add to what you were saying, there are definitely the group chats and such that are between groups of people who have like-minded interests, who are probably all on the same page, probably all get coordinated together, just like-minded interests, want to keep these people all kind of in unison with what their messaging is.
Right.
But in particular, this one was Influenceable. The website's called Influenceable. Website, but it's a company. And they've been around for some time.
When you said that. Sorry, House mentioned that in chat when you said that. It popped up at the same time. But the website Influenceable puts out talking points. That's interesting.
Yeah, and they coordinate together, and that's who pays for the campaigns, and coordinates them is probably the better word. You'll often see a floating sheet get floated around from other previous campaigns as well that'll have the whole goal of the campaign. It won't list how much they're getting paid for, but it does list out their talking points. It'll be bulleted out and be like, make sure you say at least a couple of these as well when you say your post, whether it's a video post or you're doing just like a Twitter X post, right? And so there's a bunch of money that goes into all of this too, and money makes the world kind of run, essentially. That's why you see big major players like Ian Carroll said he got started in this, and the reason why he fell into all these rabbit holes is because he started by following the money, and very quickly realized that led to a lot of other very dark things. But that's ultimately the reality we're in. And that eggs is down post, what I saw in there too was Libs of TikTok was also included in there. Try right check having the Libs of TikTok page, and not to say she doesn't put out some decent stuff every so often. It's obviously all kind of very niche and blue-haired liberals doing crazy stuff, but it's just unfortunate to see these kind of large accounts rent themselves out essentially for other bigger paid lobbying groups to come in and use their platforms. But it comes with the digital age. I mean, you see it all the time. I'm pretty sure Ian Miles Chong's, there's long been allegations that he actually bought his account, the Still Gray account that's on X. He actually bought that when it was at 180,000 followers, to get a head start with pushing things forward. And many other people involved too. In him, he's just one of the worst ones. And he kind of makes it worse. He's just this fat Malaysian guy from another country who always has something to say about American politics. And that's why it kind of gets irritating, is because it's this guy
Elon Musk
no
always
stake.
Elon Musk always reposts him and comments to his stuff, or at least he was for a while. I don't know if he stopped.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's annoying. He's definitely one of those accounts that I've been weary of, and the quartering has called him out for a long time over being a grifter and
Right.
everything. So I've been weary of that dude for probably longer than the rest of these folks. Well, definitely longer than I have been of the rest of these folks. And I get it for, you know, those accounts that we listed in some of these other ones. It's a business, and so they're trying to stay, you know, breaking news. When you're on X, you're constantly refreshing certain people's pages so that whenever they post something, you can be the first one to, you know, quote tweet it or download it, add your comment, make it a post of your own. You know, just a little while ago, there was a bunch of people, you know, these same folks, breaking this is happening. And I can't remember what it actually was. There's been quite a bit that I've been scrolling past today, so it's all kind of lost in the shuffle. But it's just like I said. I mean, it's one thing if you're trying to pass news and you're fighting like the culture war essentially, and it's another thing if you're just in it for the money. And the more people are exposed for being in it for the money, the more turned off I am just naturally. I think a lot of people are the same way.
Right. Well, especially, I mean, you probably the same way I do, especially when you're looking for, content to source for like YouTube videos and you want to catch up on the news. You're typically already following like a set group of people who are in that realm as well. So you can expect that they'll post it. And so sometimes you'll catch it on the algorithm yourself. You'll see 3 posts in a row that are like worded, 95% of the same language being used over and over again. And you'll catch it. And it's like 2 in a row posted within like 2 minutes of each other. And it gets to be a bit obvious. And I like the way that the quartering kind of said it. It's like once you see it, you can't unsee it. And so you'll begin to point out and pick up that's like, oh, these guys all use the same exact line, these 3 accounts, and they all posted this all within like literally 10 minutes of each other. It's like something clearly fishy here, right? And it's kind of the same way where I'm thinking about like with the pharma ads. I was thinking about that same thing, which we'll get into in a little bit. But with the banning of pharma ads with RFK, I was in particular looking for what news story had spurned that to go back into the news cycle, and I couldn't find one. It seemed that there hadn't been any kind of real recent thing said by RFK at all. When in turn, I just found a bunch of similar posts talking about like putting it back in the news cycle. And so that was kind of one of my thoughts too, was it didn't seem like there was some story or RFK had a brand new statement or a new speech. It was like, no, we're just all talking about it all of a sudden again. And that's where you can kind of see these like digital pushes. And like maybe, that might not be nefarious by any means, but it was clear to me, at least at looking at it, that there was no major story that spun it again. And it seemed to be a lot of similar voices and platforms probably all got coordinated together and said, let's push this back in the news cycle again, because they're probably prepping for something to occur in that realm, in that narrative, maybe later this week.
Yes. It's weird, man. I'm looking for new people to follow. Nick Sorter seems to be the one of the main outliers. Him and Ian drawing a blank on his last name.
Carol.
Right now. Carol. God. I hate when I do that, man. But
all good. He'll be a household name here soon, anyways.
Right. I mean, what was it? I think Candace was just referring to him as Ian the other day, and I'm like, man. When you pop up on the scene and people just know you as Ian, it's like, I want to be known on the scene. Like when people talk about Tyler, I want people to know that it's just that they're talking about me, right?
Right.
But yes, wow.
Like on a last name basis either, right? Like Rogan, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knows, right? If you said Joe, you'll probably still kind of get that same sentiment, right? Where you're just like, oh, okay. Yeah, probably on Rogan, right? You get known on that first name basis. It's like you dominate that name.
Right, exactly. I see Earl's daughter in chat. What's up, Earl's daughter? Cooking some dinner, but listening. Appreciate you for being here.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So we got some big news today. This kind of come out the last 24 hours. RFK has announced his intentions to go after big pharma ads essentially and get them banned from TV, like it is in most other countries. Kind of get it back to the way it used to be, where they wanted to advertise it had to be in print type of style. I believe is kind of where they're going to go. At least get it banned off of TV. Which we've talked about this before in the past. It is a lot of people I think generally agree that they're not, they suck to watch. And they start to consume, our major sports, just everything, even the political ads that we saw during the campaign. It was like big pharma campaign ad, big pharma campaign ad. And it's just not necessary. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to that being addressed. DeSantis made a huge move, gives $900 million back in federal money to Elon and Doge. Apparently he's been trying to give this money back for a couple years. It's unspent federal funds. Biden wasn't working with DeSantis on anything, so they basically just let it sit there. And from what I understand, and now they worked out a way to get it paid back. So that's interesting. I appreciate DeSantis's effort for trying to cut government waste and stuff like that. I know typically down here in Florida, when they're under budget on something, you got to spend your budget, right? If you don't spend your budget, then they cut the budget for the next year. So whenever they get down to that crunch time, the end of the season, and they have leftover money, what they do down here in Florida, from what I understand, is they start buying palm trees and sticking them in, along the roadways, on the exit ramps, on the highways, down streets, and all that type of stuff, so they can make sure that money is spent, so that they get that money the next year. Where DeSantis is out here trying to set the precedent for other states to start doing the same thing. But honestly, $900 million, I could have used the stimulus. Florida resident. Why not? It's my money anyways. No, but I get it. I think it's actually a interesting move that I didn't see coming, and it's a feather in DeSantis's cap in his gubernatorial term, as being maybe one of the greatest governors in the country, but maybe in history. I don't know. Would have to see kind of the numbers and some of the comparisons, but doing good for Florida residents, at least. Not a good presidential candidate, though.
Right.
Pam Bondi can't stop going on Fox News. It's become a joke. She's become laughable. That and it's a bad mark on the administration, on Trump's administration, in my opinion, that these folks keep going to Fox News to talk. Nobody, I don't want to say nobody, but very few people go to Fox News for factual information. It's just basically maybe a little bit better than CNN. I know they got Gutfeld, who's pretty funny, some of the stuff that you can't get on CNN. But Scott Jennings is pretty sweet. He's pretty awesome over there. I mean, that dude's lighting people up on these panels and stuff over on CNN. But, for the most part, we're not going to Fox News for news. And it's just so weird, and it's kind of tone deaf. And Fox News didn't help. I can't say he didn't, just blanket statement, but I think Trump won the election based off of social media, much like he did in 2016. Honestly, I think the social media game that Trump was running in 2016 and that candidacy was huge. The direct line from a presidential candidate, potential president, to the American people was unused at that point. And then now in this run, he put together a better campaign, I guess, got back to using social medias a little bit, put together a better team around him and whatnot, but they still run to Fox News. And it bothers me that they don't go to alt media. Alt media, as Dan McKnight says, is, the future of media, which I agree with. And so I would love to see people like, Trump, Hegseth, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, fewer appearances on Fox News, more appearances on Crowder, Tim Pool, Dan Bongino's old show with the new girl. I can't think of her name right now. Had like 45,000 concurrent viewers just this morning. Anybody that's on this side of the aisle that's doing live shows, that's doing interviews, that's the place that these people should go. I mean, Donald Trump even did it in his presidential candidacy there. He ran the gambit on from the through the podcasts and stuff like that. But and we're the ones that got him elected, essentially, right? So where are the people now coming around and doing the follow-up interviews now that we got him in place and we got his cabinet in place and everything? I think it's a disingenuous way to treat people. It's kind of like, now that we're elected, we're just going to fall back in line and go on Fox News. We're going to go on CNN, and it's just stupid, you know? I mean, they should be out here, like I said, on everything.
Well, you think about it, right? What was the look at it from the dichotomy of what everyone says when all of the left wing people when they go on CNN. It's they know they're not going to give them any hard questions. They're going to play softball with them. They're going to fluff them up. You know, so I don't think anything magically changes on those principles when all of our guys get in. Why are they only going on the easy softball Fox News show that, you know, we know kind of circulates and talks just very basic talking points? You know, it's obviously going to be like looked at as the right wing, the right, you know, the Republican good guy media, right? They're never going to go too hard on those people. And so I think the reason why you don't see them on any of those alternate shows is because they have to avoid getting that up close and personable, especially over all of the flaws and failings that we've seen, you know, early on. Trump way less so. Trump obviously went on Joe Rogan, you know, leading up to the campaign.
Mhm.
But you know, when you think about, yeah, she's been on Fox News. What I think somebody said it's been like 42 or 43 times now, since she's
That's
been
crazy.
confirmed in, which is insane, right? And so, not one of those could have been like a sit down interview with like some random podcaster. And it's like, nah, because the reality is when she goes on Fox News, she knows she's going to be slotted in for like a 3-minute segment. She'll get to say exactly what she would like to say. The questions will be given beforehand. Where when you go on a random podcast, you know, they might ask you point blank about something you're not prepared to answer for. Now, whether that speaks to maybe just like the lack of transparency for anyone who works in the government, period, or maybe it speaks more to the cowardice aspect of not wanting to be fully in the purview of the American people. You know, you can kind of put your finger on that. I'm still kind of guessing myself, but I think the point stands. Alt media has still not gotten to the full kind of grasp it should have, right? When we've kind of made it past this era of the 2020 COVID era, we should be in the era of when you look for news, I'm not looking at Fox News. I'm looking to go to someone who's been out there who you know you can trust and go to. And you think of people who have been growing a brand like that would be people like Ian Carroll, Nick Sortor from East Palestine, people who are a lot more organic. They're very natural with how they speak. They speak their mind exactly. They have a bias. They let it be known too. There's like they're not hiding behind some playful fence of, well, the both sides thing. It's like no, they're very verbose about what their biases are, and they'll still kind of give little caveats here and there about maybe they are objective about this because they're not experts per se. Um, but we saw this during the RNC, leading up to the campaign, or through the campaign, I should say. It's like one of the things that I noted. Where are you know, where are all the slots for all of the alt media, right? Why does Fox News and CNN and MSNBC and the New York Times and WAPO and the Atlantic, they all have their guys there at the RNC, but where's, you know, where was Tim Pool's, you know, bought and paid for booth? Not that I say I'm a fan by any means, but where's the Joe Rogan booth, right? Where does he get to come and just sit and stand at the RNC and commentate over what's happening? And they don't, though, right? The reality is there's still kind of these old legacy media connections that are just still there, and for whatever reason they just won't die. Like they're on their deathbed, but we can't finish them off, and we're in that final stage of boomers hanging on to what they view to be the only ethos in news media versus the old or versus the new regime, which is, you know, Zoomers, Gen Alpha, Millennials, but a Gen X who are like, can't trust any of these guys. You know, I get my news from the lady down the street who does TikTok videos, and I just see all of her sources there. And so we're kind of in that last chapter before I think we do see, you know, all of media just die and give it final breath, like dying breath.
Yeah, and I agree, especially if the RFK ban on big pharma advertising on these stations goes through, because it's huge on these channels. It's huge on you know, mainstream media and TV and stuff like that. And so Fox loses their big pharma marketing money. Just to your point, not to mention and to add that the majority of their audience is, I think it's over like 55 or 65 or something like that.
Right.
It's just a matter of time before they just can't sustain, you know what I mean? And they're not appealing to millennials, Fox News is not appealing to Gen Z. Nobody from, I mean, very few, if anybody, from that age group. And Gen X there's kind of some crossover. There's an older version of Gen X, and then there's like me, who's like the very tail end of it. And I think, if you cut that maybe down the middle, I think the younger half of Gen X is in that same boat as well.
Right.
They're just not going to Fox News. I mean, everybody's off of DirecTV. They're off of cable. Everybody's on apps. Everybody's signed up to, I don't want to sit here and run the list and give people free advertising, even though, it's not like we're helping them out. We're not talking to millions of people, right? But still, not trying to give everybody all this free advertising, but you know what I'm saying? Everybody's on the apps, really. And it's only live TV that most people watch are sporting events nowadays.
Right. Yeah, there's just, no use to it. When you see what streaming services and how they dominate as well. But again, the issue being at hand is, something I think, a lot of people kind of poke fun at the Discord and talk about often. But ultimately, I think it is just the sad reality, which is seemingly our politics are only going to change monumentally when you have generations die off. Kind of maybe one of the short fallings of humanity is the fact that propaganda can actually rewire you. And then you probably reach a certain age where no matter what really kind of happens, you're not going to, shake of that idea or your belief system. The older you are, the harder it is for any kind of change to occur. And so you see that kind of like these hardwired boomers who are just who have been propagated their entire lives. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like it's their fault by any means. I think some things are their fault. But you look at the way they've been propagandized, and you get that for your entire life.
Yeah,
it's hard to kind of change in the fourth quarter, the final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. And so I understand why it is the way it is, but it's just sad. That's kind of like what people are waiting for, right? Waiting for that want to be unifying, and like that kind of last breath of patriotism boomers got to enjoy and experience that everyone else that's alive is not experiencing, especially when you look at generational wealth and such. Kind of just waiting for that generation to not be here anymore, so we can kind of rekindle and look forward about what the vision of America, what the younger generations want for it.
Right. Not like it's something we're looking forward to or anything like that, but once that happens, there's definitely going to be a cultural shift, and that's going to affect not just Fox News, but MSNBC, CNN, all of them, all the above, everything that's on TV like that. People spend their whole life being a consumer, getting their news from the box, the TV, and this shift to alt media over the past 8-ish years, 10 years, still not that old in the grand scheme of things. And so you're going to have, just to your point, a lot of people that don't make the switch, slowly make the switch by finding shows like Dan Bongino or, Alex Jones has always been around kind of, and stuff like that. He's kind of he's a little bit harder to access, but it's, the further we get into this alt media being the norm, the trustworthy, news, the better that alt media is going to do, and the worse off the other shows are going to do, unless they do something about it. Like when Blockbuster, for example, was going away and dying off, they failed to shift and basically died off. Where in that same realm where Blockbuster died off, Netflix became a thing and went crazy. Blockbuster was right there, but they just didn't make the shift. And, if Fox News with these mainstream media sources don't make a shift, they'll be just like Blockbuster and they'll be done.
Yeah. Well, you think of it, before we get to like the main topic with RFK and such, one thing I wanted to say too is, we Alex Jones to me, in like the dissident right space, I guess you could call it, is even pretty kind of PC in my opinion. I definitely think I'll take an InfoWars show over any of the above. But think about that, right? Like Alex Jones ain't even going to be getting any invites to be a regular contributor to Fox News. Any of these kind of crazy, polarizing figures, if you will, aren't going to be getting any kind of major contributions there, let alone a lot of the issues aren't getting spoken to, right? Fox News, none of the issues they talk about speak to the younger generations, especially when you're looking at major issues that are, galvanizing people in the dissident right, is going to be things like Christian nationalism, race realism, foreign influence, all of these things that just aren't ever really talked about on Fox News. Fox News carries this kind of liberal, PC, old boomer, MLK was right about everything kind of mindset. But what are you supposed to do when that doesn't speak to any of the younger generations, and you have a bunch of young white men who say, actually, no, we think we side with Malcolm X on this. We think we would prefer to live in communities amongst ourselves. It goes into territory that's just considered so outside the realm of what's normally, even before woke, what's PC, right? Oh, you can't talk like that. There's taboo with these ideas, shame on all these ideas that you have. And there's no way to really kind of break that narrative, right? And this Jesse Waters came on screen one day and was like, you know what? F all of this. We're going to be talking to this person. It's just never going to happen. And so there's not to me any kind of production they could do that would ever win back normal audiences for them to sustain themselves, unless they did stoop down to that and start actually organically getting their own kind of influencers in the ball game, or doing basic things like what alt media shows do, which is stop doing this fake kind of TV stand man, TV accent, Atlantic accent, news storytelling, and instead like actually take like legitimate positions, have people in there who are opinionated, things that are like going to speak to literally anybody who's just not 70 years old. And until they do that, it's just not going to happen.
Right. A couple comments here. First, let me go back. Earl's daughter says, "So my old button needs to die so you can have alt news." Oh, okay. Laughing emoji. See, I'm glad you can laugh at this, right? We're all family around here. We're all jar openers, and you get it, right? We're not abdicating or looking forward to folks passing away and moving on. And as a matter of fact, you're here in the right place. You've made the adjustment. But Pam Bondi and folks like that keep going on Fox News, they're not making the adjustment, and it's just unfortunate because they're just propping up a dying brand essentially.
Right.
Andrea asked, "Do you think we'll ever have a real news on regular TV?" I don't know. I don't watch. Was it Newsmax or OAN at all? Like I said, I'm on apps. I'm completely off the satellite and cable. And I know OAN and Newsmax are kind of out there trying to rejuvenate, breathe some life into the conservative side of politics and mainstream media. But I don't know. I just don't see them getting much traction. So is it because, and like I said, I don't watch, so I wonder, is it maybe because they're using the same blueprint that Fox News and these other sources, these other mainstream media outlets are using? They're not, one of the best things that they could do would be to prop up alt media and literally intermingle with, big YouTube content creators and, share those type of resources, get Benny Johnson on there, get, Dan Bongino, you can't anymore because he's in the FBI or whatever. But, for example, just cross it up and shake it up like that. And then it kind of becomes one essentially.
Right.
Might be a better attempt than what they're doing now with the status quo.
Well, of course they all follow the same script, right? OAN and Right Side News, and there's a couple other ones that popped up there towards the beginning of 2020. But what are they all? They're all emblematic the same way. They all use the same colors, red, white, and blue. Not really doing anything different by any means, not trying anything majorly different, right? And as far as my knowledge, right, I don't, if we want to get information, at least how it's been for the longest time period, has been the fact that you get them from individual people who decided on their own accord to go there. When you think of the Springfield incident, we couldn't get anything out of there at all until Taylor Hansen himself physically went. We had one literal person on the face of the earth who wanted to go to Springfield to get information about what was going on with the Haitians eating cats and dogs and the
Right.
insurance companies hiking rates. And no one had any idea until one person finally decided, okay, I'll go and I'll ask people.
Yeah.
The same way with East Palestine, right? Nick Sortor got his rise doing that. He was finally, a lot of people started going out there, but he was one of the first ones. That's how he kind of got his stay there. But what people fail to realize is actually like there's a lot of in the younger generations, we're probably a little bit different here as we start off here, because there are probably a lot of people in here who are like political junkies, right? People who, watch a lot of politics because they themselves are interested in the happenings of what's going on. But that doesn't speak to everyone else who kind of does everything they can to avoid them. So they only get their politics from outside sources, external sources. They may have only heard the one statement about Palestine in the Middle East because they watched an Asmongold stream and he argued with Hassan over it. And so that may be that individual's only understanding of what's going on is through the lens of these two streamers arguing about it. And so until like real TV can find a way to kind of break that barrier and be all informing and not just be a conglomerate of news aggregate talking points that are specifically one-sided, meant to appease a specific audience, it's never really going to be, real TV. And you also have the issue of like with TV, rules and guidelines are a lot harsher than what you can do like on the internet, like say for YouTube and such. There's different kind of rules and laws you got to follow there. Certain radio stations in the States won't even put you on TV if you cuss a certain amount. You have to get a specific rating and such. All those kind of things that come into play, which is probably the reason why, Fox News will never be alt media. And as long as there's a better alternative, someone would rather watch Theo Vaughn talk about one specific issue, then, the burden of choice is going to be defeating to them. Because
Right.
when someone can click on a podcast, whether it's Tim Pool or Joel Webman or Candace Owens, they can look at it and they go, okay, Candace is talking about Bridget Macron, like, I don't really care about that. Oh, Joel Webman's talking about theocratic fascism. Okay, I like that. And then let's see, Tim Pool talked about this other blue-haired girl. Okay, I really don't care
Civil
about that.
War.
I'm going to watch the Joel Webman one because that's something I'm interested in. Yeah, right. And finding those and having that freedom of choice to do that.
Right, definitely. I see, one of the things that I wonder is that Fox News is I can hear myself through the wall. The TV is really loud. Is that Fox News?
So you are on TV.
Thank you. No, no. But what I was saying, sorry, is Fox News keeps getting these interviews. When you're getting interviews with Trump's cabinet, congressmen, etc., they're going to feel like they're doing everything right. What can we do? It's not our fault that the people aren't watching. We're getting, these high level interviews. Continue on the status quo. The problem is people just aren't watching and people aren't responding and, everything like that. And House Tardo, he mentions they need to reinstate the Smith-Mudd, I don't know how to say that, act and make it illegal for the government to propagandize the American people. 100% agree with that. And then Thomas Zett actually brings up a good point and says, isn't Rumble trying to do something like that? And they are. That's a great point. We started it last Monday, but today Steven Crowder is full on off of YouTube, 100% on Rumble, and they're doing their daily lineup. And right now they're like every streamer in the lineup, which they're trying to put together like a morning to afternoon, a morning through the afternoon into the evening, basically pass off the viewers. They're doing these, stream raids where when one person's wrapping up their live show, they raid the next person. So they automatically dump all the viewers onto the next person who's beginning their show. And then when that person finishes, they go to the next one and the next one. And they're all breaking, Rumble has been the number one streaming app for the past 7-8 days. Based on that, they're having the number one shows at any specific time due to that. And so, yeah, that is kind of what they're trying to do. A lot more people need to install and start using Rumble. Chris Pavlovsky, the CEO over there, is doing a great job. He's super transparent. You should follow him on X. He's announcing everything that they're doing over there. And by the way, we do have a Rumble channel over there. It's America First TV. And so if you're interested and you'd prefer watch on Rumble, it is an option in the shows running over there right now. And thank you to the folks that are watching over there. The channel is starting to grow a bit, and it's nice to see. It's nice to see some traction kind of falling to as people are going to Rumble. I think some of the smaller shows like ours are getting some of the overflow. Just in the last week, I've seen I think 7 or 8 new followers, which is about 10% of what I got over there. I've been running that channel the same amount of time that I've been running the YouTube channel, and I'm at nearly 29. Well, I'm over 29,000 subs here, so you can kind of see the scale, the difference between what YouTube is doing and what Rumble is doing, just with users and things. But Rumble still has a lot of places to go, and I think they're on the right track. So yeah, that is definitely a good point there, Thomas. And then
one thing about Gavin Newsom, right? Gavin Newsom isn't joining a contract due to a multimedia venture with like MSNBC. He's doing his own podcast.
Mm-hmm.
He's joining alt media, right? You can't beat it, join it. So ultimately, Miguel is making that point, right? They will eventually find a way to infiltrate that market. Maybe it won't be known as CNN, but maybe maybe some figure. I was going to say Don Lemon, but he already tried to do it independently and failed. But maybe they do get one of their guys, right, starts a successful podcast, and the next thing you know, without even realizing it, the anti-Elon show is like ran by people who were all formerly a part of like CNN and MSNBC and ABC News, and instead of doing it like your normal way, they just found a way to change their personalities, jump into the podcast venture, and that's what you'll get. So I think it's just a destiny, until ultimately, there's going to be something that fills that void. Maybe that you could call them to kind of get bought out by each other, right? Maybe it goes back to only a couple news channels instead of having at least 10, 11 of them, right? With all their own individual broadcasting licenses and such. But I think ultimately most people, as the longer that they kind of flee out, money will have to be a major contributor. So if you're not pulling people and your audience is dying off, I mean, inevitably those who are investing in those groups or backing them financially will find another way to either recoup that or leave entirely.
Right. So here, I want to play this real quick. This is from Alex Jones. Massive Epstein bombshell just dropped. I know I said we weren't going to talk about Epstein and Pam Bondi together, but this is from Alex Jones. This is along the lines of Pam Bondi being on Fox News again. But AG Pam Bondi says she's been researching the Epstein files that were hidden by the New York FBI, and that there are hundreds of victims that they're preparing to release. Those responsible will be brought to justice. Let's see here. Oh, this is 6 minutes long. I didn't realize it was 6 minutes long. Let's see here. I think I just want to play the beginning. For some reason, I thought this was like the 1:20 clip. I copied the wrong. I was seeing like 4 or 5 of them, so I just chose one. And this is a longer clip, so my bad. Let's go ahead and we'll just play a little bit.
Tens of thousands of pages of documents and hundreds of victims of Jeffrey Epstein. So the FBI, they have been working round the clock at my directive, at Kash Patel's directive. Now Dan Bongino's there, who is a great asset for all of us at the FBI as well. But yeah, we have to protect their identity, their personal information to make sure they're safe. But other than that, we are releasing all of these documents as soon as we can get them redacted to protect the victims of of all of these horrific crimes that he committed.
Most of them were old. Told it was all the Epstein files she was giving them. Most of them were old. 10 pages were new. Implicated the former prime minister of Israel.
I'm not going to actually let Alex go that long. I really just wanted to play that thing and kind of make fun of Pam Bondi for going on there once again, right? And still hyping us up, not giving us anything. We'll see. I got this post here from Drew Hernandez. Pam Bondi clearly thinks going on Fox News in 2025 is the best way to inform the American people. That should tell you everything you need to know. And you see some of these comments here. One person said it actually is, considering it's the #1 cable news channel. And then Drew Hernandez says, nope, it's X. Try to keep up, boomer.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
Real.
Let's see here. People are
The
saying
comment's hilarious. Is she really the AG? Started to think she just plays one on TV.
for real.
Some super chicken right there.
Right here, yeah, I see that. This person, I'm beyond sick of it. Fox's red flag is they hate Trump. Let's see here. She's not caught up to the news media. She's almost 60 years old. What else? What she should be doing is retweeting my meme page. Yeah, this person, I don't even watch news on TV. They need to get with it. They're missing a lot of people, and here we're basically forced to play a Fox News clip to get the information that she's saying when nobody wants to go to Fox News and watch it, directly. So it's just it's a bad look. I'm tired of Pam Bondi going on here and going on Fox News and talking about how bad this is and not giving us anything. You know what I mean? It's just now all of a sudden the linchpin in the Epstein files is the 10,000 documents or whatever it was that the New York FBI withheld. There was nothing in any of the other files that they had that was worth a shit. And it's just, I don't buy it. Right. even I believe it was Alina Habba. Maybe I'm wrong. It might've been somebody else. Might've been Caroline Levitt, but they said, wait, it was neither of them. It was Anna Paulina Luna the first time around, claimed that she had seen the files. What she saw in the files was disturbing. They released those files and there wasn't really anything new, right? Yeah. All we got was the MAGA influencers that we were talking about in the beginning of the show, walking away with their little file folder that all had the same, most transparent presidency in history. And then they all came out and like 10 of them posted the same thing on X, basically word for word.
The one that got me was the AI video that showed them all dancing. Don't know if you saw that at all, but someone took a still shot of them holding their binders out and they turned it to like a 10-second animation. And it's like them all like dancing with their binders. It was hilarious. It cracked me up.
That's funny. Let's see here. TNT says, I'm confused. Is Pam supposed to ignore a lot of the base? I think people on X think way too much of themselves. That's kind of the truth, but it's a little tone deaf when you run to Fox News every single time, rather than splitting it up, right? I mean, you can go on Fox News. We'll still get the clips, but maybe she should go on Piers Morgan's show. Maybe she should go on Benny Johnson or Tim Pool or whoever and talk to the other people that aren't watching Fox News, that never watch Fox News. They're missing their opportunity and they're trusting, the pundits who are losing clout amongst us because they all post in unison to get the message out. That's who they're trusting to get the message out. And it's just like, well, we're trusting the messengers a little bit less and less. And yes, those are alt media, but those people are in it for the business. If you've been paying attention to us, we've been doing this show since October-ish, and we're just doing our thing. You know what I mean? We're not in unison with anybody. Sometimes that gets us in trouble for calling out. Like when we had Donnie on, I felt like, man, we sound like a bunch of whiny Democrats right now. And I had to call it out, honestly, because we're critiquing our own side so heavily. And it's healthy. It's a healthy conversation, but you just got to be careful. I don't want to come off sounding like I'm anti-Trump or anything like that. I haven't lost faith in that, at least yet. That's from my perspective. And so,
I think it's even less so about, where exactly she's doing the, her TV performances or appearances, more so about the fact it's just all talk and very little results. Right, exactly, with the Earl's daughter, right? It's like we want to see people get arrested. We want to see consequences. I'm not appeased by just getting all these kind of small wins. Like, I want the people who are committing evil atrocities at the highest level to be held responsible. I want to not think about the fact that more people have served time in prison for January 6th than those who are on the Epstein list. Those are the kind of things where it's like, now it's just like, now it feels like you're just mocking us. Like that, now it just feels like that, like elitist kind of stuff, right? It's like, okay, the first couple appearances, that's great. That's awesome. You're doing what with the Epstein files? That's awesome. And now it's like months later, it's like still doing Fox News appearances, still going on. Like, oh, woe is me. These files are just so bad. Oh man, what's in here, guys? We're working so hard for you. It's like at a certain point, it just gets like, it's very annoying, right? Because no one appreciates being spoken to like a child.
Right.
And that's kind of like how it feels, right? When you keep doing these very softball appearances on Fox News and they go, what's the latest with the Epstein files? It's like, I don't care anymore. It's like, I just want to see it, right? Or if you have nothing, then just let it be, right? Just don't say anything.
Yeah.
Especially when you have the majority of people who are in the younger base, who aren't, older than 60 years old, have been massively calling for you to resign over the way you handled all of this stuff too. And so I think that's part of the reason why you do see people who are ignoring this stuff and maybe not doing appearances on alt media, because they probably would get asked directly, what do you say about the fact that you have, there's been trending campaigns for Bondi AG to resign, right? You've been seeing these kind of digital campaigns. People don't want you to be there. You kind of avoid a good bit of that stuff as well. We're doing that. And so overall, I'm just not appeased, right? And I kind of sided with Donnie on that whole, shebang anyways. I already it's not good enough for me.
Yeah.
But then again, like, relativity is also the issue, right? Perfect always the enemy of the good. But I'm kind of a visionary in that aspect, right? I want the absolute best we can possibly fathom. I look at, founding fathers, right? I'm looking at 26-year-olds who, turned against their own families and, had daughters, brothers, sisters, wives who betrayed them, lied to them, wrote letters to the king saying, my husband's trying to form a revolt against you. Oh, King George, I would never do this to you. Go find my husband. He's hiding at the tavern over by the Goats in Boston. And then over here, it's like, we can't even say like, hey, man, you didn't do what you promised to do. And they're like, whoa, we'll worry about. It's like, to me, it's like, I'm thinking of like what man is capable of. And then I'm looking at like what our politics are. And I go, yeah, this isn't good enough, man. This is a dirty, sloppy mess.
Right.
I want a lot better. And secondly, too, like this is a minor point, but a lot of people already feel that way too. Is like nobody wants to see, at least for me, I don't want to see Pam Bondi do this whole like, oh, I'm this hot 60-year-old woman who's still doing my job. Like, I don't like the Attorney General. If we're going to be talking about somebody who's like going to bat, right, and it's like this guy's getting arrested, this guy's getting arrested. Like, I want it to be someone like Matt Gaetz. I want it to be somebody who I know is going to be like a bulldog for that. Not somebody who like timidly pushed gun control in Florida, and I think is like what Pilgrim
red flag
like
laws.
Half a liberal.
Yeah, exactly. And not to mention and to mention the fact that she was AG over Florida when the whole Epstein original arrests when he was still alive happened and stuff like that. So this isn't her first go around with Epstein files, and so she's kind of had multiple opportunities to handle this differently. I will say, though, that it's kind of like a fine balance. Like, we want to critique and criticize to demand the best, right? But at the same time, we don't want to give the Democrats like confidence and talking points. So it's kind of, there's a fine balance in there, right? You know what I mean? But Earl's daughter mentions, I don't want documents, I want arrests. Speaking of victims, is Pam referring to the sick bastards who were filmed unaware? I'm not sure, to be honest. I think she's maybe referring
to all the
to
girls who were getting trafficked.
Kind of everybody.
Right? It's all the girls who are being taken to the island to be taken advantage of. The weirdest thing too was there was also seemingly like an underground campaign that was like, well, guys, all the girls were 18. I think that came from like the Bronze Age pervert side of the aisle, wanting to kind of tone people about like how much they should really care about the Epstein stuff. And like, well, you have to know, like, there probably was a lot of girls who were 18 who knew what they were doing. And it's like, I've never in my life, like, it's like, what's the right word for that? Being so close you can almost taste it, right? It's like, we're right here. It's like, we supposedly got our people in, and it's like, the Epstein files are here. It's just like, all we're getting is like, it's like mist. It's like, I want the water. Like, I want the cup of water. And that cup of water is the arrest and the transparency with what happened in this. And all we're getting is like someone sending me with like a misting fan from Cedar Point. Like, doesn't that feel good? It's like, yeah, can you just give me the damn files, dude? You know, like that's what it feels like. And so I think people are going to get more irritated too, especially because we're talking about like some like very unspeakable, awful crimes being done by people who get to dictate who and what happens at the highest levels in our government. And like those things don't match up very well already in a society where our social cohesion is dissipating at unforeseen rates. I mean, it's only a matter of time, especially when as the summer heats up with fair weather, we're going to see a lot of leftists doing stupid shit like burning, you know, Tesla stuff to the ground and probably getting out and doing more retarded protests that Lord knows they have no idea what they're even protesting for.
Oh yeah.
And then
we got a couple of them. We're going to talk about one here in a minute.
Yeah, and then you have people who are at home like, okay, like we got our guy in, he's going to go bang out the government, right? This is a bull in a china shop. Where is it? Waiting. Is the video buffering because nothing happened yet, right? Like,
right. You know, it's like riding a water slide at an amusement park on a hot summer day and not getting wet.
Right. Or yeah, you're being made to go down the slide with no water. Actually, that sounds like torture.
It's like you got to stand on the bridge to actually get wet after you ride the ride because you didn't get wet on it.
Yeah, right. And I would also rather be like so there's two sides, right? You can be on the side that's like, that goes, hey man, like this isn't good enough. Where's it at? It's time. Like, come on, we're waiting. Versus you can be the side that goes,
we won on Sunday. Now it's Monday. Let's get back to business. We got another game to win.
Right. And like, I'd rather be on that side compared to the ones who are like, well, I'm sure it's coming, guys. Like, let's just have faith in him. Right. It's like, I'd rather be the annoying one. I want them to prove it wrong and then like, and be like, actually, we were working on it. Here's every Epstein file. And we didn't redact anything. We proved you wrong. It's like, good, great. That's what I was asking for.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's awesome.
Please. I've been begging you to prove me wrong and lighten my black pilling. Right. TNT Cycles. He brings up a good point. I'm out here calling out these pundits who are becoming an echo chamber of each other. And then I'm also saying that they need to stop going on Fox News. And it's like, well, wait a minute, do these interviews with the pundits that want us to support Big Soda or like who, you know? So that's why I'm trying to name some names that aren't those folks like Benny and stuff like that. But that's a good point. We definitely have to remember who all these folks are. And then Donnie, in reference to bringing him up where I said we're talking about, you know, sounding like we're almost Democrats. If we can't criticize our leaders, we are a cult just like they are. That's an excellent point. And that's something you never really see the left do is criticize their leaders the way that the right does. Criticize their own leaders. And we're on the same side, just trying to figure out the best way to work through this culture war that we've been, you know, eased into by having bad party leaders on the Republican side for decades. I don't even know how long you want to go back, honestly. Maybe never. Pilgrim says, replace Bondi. She's half a liberal. I mean, we didn't give her a great grade whenever we went through Trump's cabinet appointees before they were confirmed because of the red flag laws, the way she handled the Epstein files in Florida when she was AG and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, you're totally right.
Yeah. I get her an F for being a woman in politics.
Pilgrim, you're right. Bondi does hate 2A. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And it's good to see you back. I saw you. Wait, did I see you in the video chat earlier today from my video, or was it in the last live? I can't remember now. It's all blur. I've had my head down working. Thanks, Chris, for moderating over there. And just so you guys know, Chris is right. We're trying to move folks over from America First TV to the Jar Openers podcast on its own channel to separate the lives from the daily videos and help the algorithm know a little bit better and fine tune the algorithm to show people the live show. And so make sure you guys do hit that link down in the description to the Jar Openers. Go over there. That's where most of chat is happening. And, you know, show a little support by hitting the subscribe button as well, liking, sharing, all that good stuff. We really appreciate it. And we're just a couple dudes doing our best, trying to change the culture a little bit in the right direction. And
one like equals one time Atlas tells a woman to get off the internet and go cook something for her husband.
But if you guys want to buy memberships, super chat, you can also still do that on America First TV, as the Jar Openers podcast channel is not monetized. So still have that option for you guys as well. Let's see here. And little self plug, whatever. I did add the link to the description on, I think it was America First TV. I didn't do it on the Jar Openers description. There is a 15% discount on my Teespring shop. And so if you want to enter Jar Openers as the promo code, go over there. You get a 15% discount on that stuff as well. So let's see here.
Yeah.
What have I missed in chat? What have I missed in chat? Let's see here. Oh shit! Somebody wants to get wet. Just me.
That's fine.
Let's see here. Good point, Earl's daughter. I wonder if what did Earl's daughter say? I'm aware of the chicken, but are we talking about big money? Oh, children. I got chicken on my brain because this chicken's still behind me, and she just crapped, so it stinks in here.
That's funny.
I'm like dying right now.
Good thing this is remote.
Yeah. So let's see here. What did she say? Actually, I was distracted. I'm aware of the children, but are we talking about big money? My question should be, is Pam MAGA or a gatekeeper? And that's the question. Her whole the answer to that question will be determined by how she handles the Epstein files. It all hinges on that. So
right. We'll see though.
Yeah.
Give it a few more months, man. People aren't gonna that honeymoon period for all these, Trump picks is going to dissipate.
Yep. Let's see. Oh wow, my mom's in chat. What's up, Mom? Don't be telling people my middle name. Just kidding. Hi, Mom.
Right.
Thanks for showing up, showing some love. Let's see. All right, well, let's move over here to the big news of the day, the big faux pas of the day, essentially. We got a couple. We ran an hour on that first story. Let's see.
Oh yeah, with the I was going to say, if we don't bury the headline for today, which is the fact that group chat had gotten leaked out to I believe his name was Jeffrey Goldberg, guy who worked for the Atlantic, the editor-in-chief, I believe. But it was like a Signal group chat between JD Vance, Pete Hegseth, Trump admin, people like that as well. And just a major blunder, at least as far as what I could read too. There are some weird parallels with this guy and previous leaks he's apparently had a handle of. But the Atlantic's obviously very notorious for being anti-Trump. But the big story is essentially that a bunch of images and screenshots of these leaked chats got inadvertently sent to a reporter that detailed some very specific things, and specifically regarding the Houthi, the upcoming military operations involving Yemen, and what to do with Houthis and what we need to do strike-wise, etc. Which is odd in and of itself, right? With the story, a big blunder if it is true that that wasn't meant to happen. Pete Hegseth didn't know who he was adding into this group chat, if that allegation is true. But more so the contents are intriguing as well, which I went over a little bit. Even Clint Russell pointing out, it seems that the only person in that chat that was pushing back against the military operations moving forward was actually JD Vance. It seemed everyone else was actually pro committing these military strikes, which is just a smaller sentiment there. But obviously the left and the Krasenstein bros and all of those just super gay homosexual retards are running with, look at the Trump admin, like these guys can't even use their phone. If it was Biden, it'd be front page news. And so they're getting all of these kind of look how unqualified Pete Hegseth is. And so that's going to be like the Democrat version of the news cycle here with this story.
Right. Well, from what I understand, the guy claiming that he was added to the group chat is a rather staunch anti-Trump, journalist.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Jeffrey
so
Goldberg.
it's odd. And again, why is Trump's cabinet giving, Trump and Trump's cabinet giving so much attention, interviews, private conversations? Why is this dude's phone number in Pete Hegseth's phone? You know what I mean? Dan McKnight's phone number should be in Pete Hegseth's phone, which I think it is actually. But,
Right.
This dude is not the dude. So I just can't help but wonder if this is fake. Like, maybe the screenshots are real, but they were, hacked somehow. They're given to this dude for him to exploit and say, hey, look, they added me in here, with no real way of like verifying. Like, there's no screenshot that I've seen that shows that he's actually in the group chat. And this could be just a complete faux pas by the cabinet. I believe they're saying that Pete Hegseth was the one that added him to the chat.
So I thought the same thing too. When I first saw the story, I saw it was breaking. I wanted to give it a second before I put a bit more on the outline about it. And then I saw that breaking 911, and the White House actually confirmed that the leak was real. So the White House itself had confirmed that this was a real thing that had actually occurred.
Okay.
The specific tweet in question from the confirmation said, yeah, the White House confirms Trump National Security Team accidentally texted plans for Yemen attacks to the Atlantic's editor-in-chief. And people obviously saying, how does that happen? Was it an accident? Along with what you were saying too, right? Is this like, do we trust this, or what? Maybe this was like a coordinated thing. Like, is there something like else going on here that's seems curious? But again, he's not a journalist either, right? He's the editor-in-chief of the Atlantic, so he's got a guy. He's like a manager, essentially, more so than anything.
Right. Like Chris says, I'm sure Pete has had contact with him due to interviews. And that's what I'm saying. Quit doing interviews with these people. Quit lending your credibility and helping these other people's careers be platformed by your words and your work when they hate you. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't do any good. We learned from the first 4 years of Trump's presidency that no matter how hard Trump or anybody appealed to the Democratic Party, tried to work with the Democratic Party, they weren't having it. They wanted impeachment. They wanted Russia investigations. They weren't having it.
Right. And so people were posting a lot of other previous articles this editor-in-chief has been involved with, which again are all very anti-Trump. I think even previously, there was a few years ago, we had also said that he had been leaked information of like the same accord, right? Information that he wasn't supposed to be privy to, that he apparently had gotten his hands on. And so, yeah, just like kind of very, very odd, because it only does look like negative optics for the Trump team, and especially on Pete Hegseth, right? Because it seems to be the fall man they're going with. This was the guy who they keep saying was the one who inadvertently had added it. I'm sure we'll have to wait for that, though. But at least that's what all the news stories are running with, is that it's Pete Hegseth who was the blunderer here.
Right. And, that gives the left a lot of ammunition, right? They're going to say, oh, was Pete Hegseth drunk? That was one of his main things that they were trying to use against him was, can he function? Is he going to stay sober, and blah, blah, blah. And just, it's a credible, it's a valid critique. You know what I mean? And it sucks. And maybe it's just a complete mistake, and he might have to be fired for it. You know what I mean? I don't know. This could have been,
right.
If it's all true and he did do this, I mean, first of all, they shouldn't be communicating this type of information over that type of method where you can, it needs to be a safe, encrypted, whatever type of scenario. I mean, don't tell me the government or the military or somebody can't come up with their own app that they use that's completely proprietary. I mean, they made the CBP-1 app for people to seek asylum into our country on a grand scale. This is talking about something small for a small group of people, you know what I mean? Rather exclusive. So you think that with the budgets that these people operate with, that they'd be able to have something like that done. But
I also think of like planned exits. That's a common use thing, especially in politics. when you're wanting to save somebody's entire political career, you do things like this, right? Which is, we like Pete Hegseth, but we do have to let him go now. We have no idea how he wasn't managing his phone. And it's a way to let someone go over a non-reason when there may have been maybe something like deeper in there too. I kind of think that's a bit concerning there as well. But again, the contents of the messages are what's also odd as well, because now you're seeing private information and seeing like the differences and the pushbacks that are happening there as well. But maybe maybe it was a bit coordinated. Maybe there was some kind of plan on there too. I guess we'll have to wait and see. As far as I could tell, this is breaking like this morning. So I'm sure we'll have to wait, especially it's a leak from a national security team as well. So to get fast details about what happened there, they're probably doing damage control, seeing what all had been leaked. How much did he have access to? How much did Goldberg screenshot before, they knew he had access when he shouldn't have. Again, a lot of it is just like a bit of a waiting game there, but I think there's something fishy here, at the very least,
Right.
And again, we have the bias that the Trump admin doesn't make, retarded mistakes like this, but it still happens. And if it did, that's not a good sign, right? It's a
Right.
pretty
Well, I'm not going to make excuses for him. I'm going to say bad job if they fuck this one up. Just to be realistic. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't expect anybody to be perfect, but this could have been way worse. And then to TNT's point too, that this may be illegal for this journalist or whoever he is, whatever he calls himself, to leak this information. Whether it's whether he was included in it or not, this might be classified information, and him sharing screenshots and things like that might be sharing classified information. You know what I mean? Regardless of if you're privy to it or not, they're supposed to be. So there's so many layers to this. I just don't really know. And, I mean, even if Pete Hegseth steps down or is fired, the Democrats aren't going to approve of the next person. So it's not like we're trying to win the Democrats over. We just want somebody in there that's going to do a good job and protect our secrets and national security and whatnot. Right.
Right.
House brings up a great point. Steve Jobs' widow owns The Atlantic. Lauren Jobs is a major donor to the Democratic Party and founded the far left Emerson Collective. Thank you for that. House Encyclopedia. I mean, Leotardo.
Right. Yeah. Mr. House AI.
House AI. Yeah. Encyclopedia. That's old. I'm a boomer. I don't even think they make. I think they actually do make encyclopedias still, but nobody uses them.
House PT, right? House PT. But the connections here, and I just shared that there if you wanted to put it on screen. The connection there that I thought was odd, because like I had said earlier, this guy had some weird connections in previous parallels to this story here. But this is from Sovereign Bra, and he's quoting Fisher King. But Fisher King says that it was actually Jeffrey Goldberg who had tried to link Saddam Hussein to Al-Qaeda and by implication to 9/11 in a 2002 New Yorker article, part of the overall effort to get us into the Iraq war, not a guy you want with access to anything confidential. And Sovereign Bra basically says, this is not a guy who you want to, or the addition of that, makes it a bit more suspicious, seeing how he's been involved with previous sentiments like that. But then also, if you're still sharing it, was from the Individualist, but these are previous articles from Jeffrey Goldberg from the Atlantic, right? This is the guy who wrote the famous article that Trump wanted Hitler generals, which you can probably remember that was like a year or two ago when that was going crazy. There's one on the left though. Americans who died in war are losers and suckers. And so the clear theme here with these articles from Jeffrey Goldberg is he is a very staunch anti-Trumper, right? Probably like similar to what you would see from people from the Lincoln Project, whose entire personality is, making Trump be seen in the worst light as humanly possible. Not to say that the guy's perfect, but these guys go overboard to paint the most brutal picture of Trump and try to take advantage of people who probably aren't all privy to what the story was in general. Especially the one about the generals, wanting the generals that Hitler had, was one of the most crazy stories as well too. But it's very suspicious because it makes you think then either if it was a blunder, maybe there was possibly a mole there, or was this coordinated in the same light that what Fisher King had pointed out, which was this guy's main purpose is to help drum up support for pro-war sentiments. and to try to help convince and send and narrative build and craft to get people to want to go to war, you know, in this case, Iran.
Yeah, 100%. You know, let's see if I can, for some reason, when you share your page, it doesn't fit the square. I don't know why.
Probably just different monitor sizes. Like if I
Let's see.
move this off and let me see, let me go back. And then what if I widen mine? Will it do it? If I make
Oh,
it,
is that what's going on? The right side? Oh, no, I don't know what it is.
I have no idea.
Interesting. I don't know. Well, I think I'm just gonna have to have you put it back on the size you had a minute ago, because that was almost all the way, and then I'll create another outline, not outline, but layout with just a little bit smaller square that'll, whenever I stage yours, it'll look proper, which is fine. It's fine anyways, but I was just thinking like, man, why doesn't that feel? Anyways, sorry guys.
Yeah, it's all good. I don't know what the issue is. I have massive monitors, so it doesn't like it messes up. The one I have is like 2560 by like 16 something or other. Like I can't remember what the dimensions are. So it's not the regular like 1920 by 1080, which is probably why it has issues. If yours is like in that regular canvas style.
Gotcha. Let's see here. Okay.
But
yeah, I can't. Donnie said it's snowing. I can't believe it's still snowing. Like, get out of here, snow.
that is wild.
The global warming. It's global warming.
Well, this is the one extra part about this, about the actual contents of what was leaked, you know, with the military information. So we'll get to Clint here, but this is from AF Post, and they write here, over a signal that JD Vance had privately pushed back against Trump's move to strike the Houthis in Yemen, calling it a mistake and inconsistent with his message. And then actually Pete Hegseth was the one who replied to defend the message. And you can see that here in these pictures here as well. But overall, the quote there from Clint is, you know, I think we are making a mistake. I just hate bailing out Europe again. And this is JD prior to the Yemen strikes. And he writes, clearly JD is the most America first of anyone in Trump's orbit, which is good to know. And I do think that's one important thing that we probably we kind of had left out last show, in regards to the fact that the Houthis are, you know, all of those Truth Social posts that came out. It seems, at least in my opinion, that we're probably about to leave the no new wars Donald Trump, whatever that version of him was. I think that we are going to get a very, very openly willing to commit violence overseas version of Donald Trump, especially with his Truth Social post, essentially saying that anything that the Houthis do should be recognized as a Iran-backed thing. And that's saying that, you know, anything the Houthis did, that Trump would hold Iran itself accountable for. All of this kind of rhetoric that speaks to willingness to go to war over very, very small things. And especially when you compare it to the overall happenings of what's going on in the Middle East, I don't think it doesn't bode well. And it feels like, again, I do agree with JD Vance, like all of this stuff happening with Yemen is very inconsistent with the peaceful isolationist Donald Trump, the independent Donald Trump, the America First Donald Trump. And now why are we seemingly so concerned with bombing Yemen or the maritime corridor that benefits China if we do what we're supposed to be doing over there in terms of who uses that corridor? A lot of things just aren't adding up. But again, in my opinion, you have to look at it from whose interest are we best serving here? And I think this, again, is not something that serves the American people.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely don't want to, you know, definitely rooting for Trump to be able to continue that no new wars moniker saying, but you know, he's been throwing the weight around a little bit there, talking about Gaza, or not really Gaza, but Hamas, which affects Gaza. He did talk about Gaza too. But you know, I mean, you know, throwing your weight around is one thing in words, but actually lobbing bombs, sending in American troops That's another realm. We don't want to go there.
Right. Right. I just hope that
TNT says
it
maybe
ends.
I'm wrong, but didn't the ships defend themselves with cannons from the pirates in days past?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, something I learned that was like brand new to me was apparently there's like a company in Russia, and this might be news to you guys as well. Apparently there's a company in Russia, and you can pay it's like anywhere from like 7,500 to 12 grand to go on a trip. And what they do is they go into areas where they know are very heavily pirate zones. There's a lot of pirates in the area, so you can pay to go on a boat to shoot at pirates. I mean, it's like a Russian company, so you can pay to go on this boat, and it's like we know there's pirates generally in this area. I don't know if they get what you can bring your own ammunition or whatever. But, like,
international waters, man.
right, you can go do whatever. Right, you can go blow up some pirates. I think it's Somali pirates specifically. But just crazy to think that Russia is making it like a maybe not a tourist attraction, but they're making a company
Tourist
out of fighting
attraction.
pirates.
Go fight pirates for the day.
Right,
It's like a
exactly, right.
3-day voyage to fight pirates. You might not
Right.
make it back.
Right, exactly. But it's cool though, and I wish we were more like Russia in that regard.
Yeah, well, the FAFO, right? Freaking pirates. I wish the
Right.
pirates nowadays would at least like wear eye patches and peg legs and stuff, but that's just me being wishful.
Yeah, it'd be easier to to just pick them out. Nowadays, they all kind of they got that typical. People might think this is racist. I don't really care, but there's like you can tell when a black person's Somali just based on how like their forehead is and the shape of their skull. And I've been in Columbus for Lord knows how long, which is a refugee city or a sanctuary city for Somalis. So like I can tell a Somali from any other kind of ethnicity of a black individual. So you could probably just tell in those regards, right? What's that famous movie where he's like, I'm the captain now? That was actually based off of the Somali pirate zone, right? Like it's bad over there. Somali basically doesn't even have a government, or at least didn't for a period of time. If you even look it up on like the world, international map, it's like people just guess. They're like, we don't know who's the leader here, because it's just a warfare state, it's a criminal state, and that's who Ilhan Omar wants to make the country more like, and send money back to those people to help them. It's just, again, it's no one's really serving America's interest really at the end of the day. To me, it's very black pilling, but a lot of this is just a facade to appease people until there's no money left in the bank anymore.
Right. Speaking of Ilhan Omar, I saw her the other day leading, talking to like the Somalis or whatever, right? And I think it was the Somalis, right? That's where she's from.
Yeah.
Okay. In their language, like behind a microphone and like a press conference, like not even a press conference, just like a pep rally. And this might be me being weird, but I don't think anybody that's an elected representative of the, in the United States government should publicly speak in a foreign language like that. They should always speak in English so that the people that they serve knows what they're saying. It just comes off like, if I don't know what you're saying, I don't know what you're saying about me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you're my elected representative. Like, yeah, you can talk in a foreign language, even in like an interview setting. But if you're going to go on a stage and rally people with a mic in, a potentially hostile or a protesting type of manner, should be speaking English. I mean, plain and simple. I don't know, side note to that. But I saw that and I was just like, who is this? You know what I mean? Like, that is not cool.
Yeah, well, in those regards, like I completely agree. I would go as far to say is, you should be fined if you speak anything but English, even as a citizen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think these call centers that make you press 2 for Spanish should all get thrown in prison for.
It's a waste of time. I hate it. I gotta waste like 4 seconds to mark a dose.
Right. Well, it's the whole thing of like, we're worried about like social cohesion, right? And like our politics are so bad, they're becoming pop culture, everything's so divisive, and it's like, yeah, well, what do you expect when you're like, the whole myth of the melting pot has only ever been that, which was a myth. Our cultures do everything they can to kind of retain themselves entirely, which is why you see the lack of assimilation. It just doesn't happen.
Mhm.
Ultimately, it's like at the end of the day, like you're never going to have a homogenized culture if everyone speaks different languages, practices different holidays on different days. It's always going to be a fight for influence, right? This culture is going to want to fight to have their
Right.
religious version of Christmas be the one that's enshrined in law and not others.
Well, if you can't understand your neighbors, how can you have community with them?
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? It's just one of those things where the language barrier divides people, and it's just as simple as that, right? Like, um, I'm all for the United States being the melting pot, but once you get here, you assimilate to the culture. You don't create little Mexico, you don't create little Haiti, you don't create little whatever, and separate yourself and still separate yourself from the rest of society, but yet still benefit off of everybody else's tax dollars and still be a part of the same social programs and stuff like that. I just don't.
Right.
You're either a part of the community, you're a part of the culture, or you're not. And
Right. And I mean, especially for me, right? Like I'll take it up like multiple notches. Like, not only am I a Christian nationalist, I mean, I'm quite frankly a Christian supremacist. I don't want to see any of these other cultures even halfway respected in this nation. I want to see us return to roots. I want to see us actually, carry the actual gall and audacity that our religion should have, and stop. And this is actually a great segue because that's why I put in that story. Texas had recently had to put legislation forward to outright ban Sharia law because the influencers are getting super strong over there.
right.
I didn't even realize that in Texas, they're making their own new versions, like New Mecca is what they're making. That way, people don't have to take the pilgrimages out of America. They're trying to rebuild a new Mecca there in Texas, which is
Oh,
insane.
wow.
And I didn't even realize that was happening.
That's
But you
insane.
look at like the UK and how bad it is over there. Well, apparently it's been happening under our nose as well, like in Texas. And that's why I put like there's like a 7-minute video of this lady, or like a compilation kind of clip showing just how bad that influence over there is in Texas.
Yeah, that's crazy. I did not know that was going on. House mentions a recent poll also showed that a record 67 million people speak a language other than English at home today, which tells us that we don't have a language, let alone a culture, any longer. Well, yeah, it's definitely an uphill battle. Hopefully the deportations are ramped up and we can get rid of anywhere from 10 to 40 million people who criminally broke into our country illegally, and get them cut off from the benefits that the Biden administration set in place.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not a matter for me of reacting, right, always being in the reactionary position. It's a vision of wanting things looking forward.
Yeah,
Like, if
yeah,
I
yeah.
could make my America 15 years from now, I would return it to roots, return to tradition, right? It would get away from all of this hodgepodge, globo homosexual jihad, pushing satanic messaging down in everyone's throats, from music to Hollywood to everything else,
Right,
and make it America again, make it Christian again, right? Ban pornography, right? Get that stuff out.
right,
Um, I think there is a complete lack of what we have as a social responsibility to not only just ourselves, but our children, our descendants, let alone like our own communal responsibility to our neighbors. I mean, that doesn't even exist anymore. People live in such atomized communities, especially in the city, which I've recently went away from, but experienced, which is, yeah, all of my neighbors they don't speak English, at least when they're walking down the street next to me. Have no idea like what they're saying half the time. It's like it doesn't make for, saying hi or what's up, or even, going beyond a very shallow um knowing or understanding of each other. But ultimately, yeah, and this is what you see replicated in, all of the young men who are turning to Orthodox Christianity. Um, Men who are so desperately seeking something that's just not this current iteration of what they're experiencing, not being pushed to the bottom of the totem pole, being told just because they're white, they're men, their existence is entirely futile. They need to learn how to cope with their masculinity. All men just want to rape, but they just don't act on it. All this kind of stuff that's just like they can't do it anymore. Right? It's like it's unsustainable. That's why you're seeing men not participate not only just in the workforce, but also in dating markets and such. And so I think the answer to that is returning to tradition, right? Giving men these crusades that they actually so desperately are wanting, which is returning back and conquering and feeling like they are the peoples of which the homeland that they reside in.
Yeah. Sorry, I was reading chat there for that last bit. Totally spaced you out there, bud. Sorry.
No, you good.
I feel bad.
No, you're good. Well, that's why, you know, that Islam section I think is insane. This video kind of blew me off a little bit. Or blew my mind a little bit. But, you know, we're seeing it in the UK, surging influence of Islam. A lot of young men are actually turning to Islam here in the States too, because they are so desperately seeking something that is not choking and, you know, getting choked out and beaten to death.
Right.
By feminism. And so that's why you see a lot more white men are turning to Islam, because they're just like, literally take anything, right? Literally anything over this effeminate garbage that they are made to consume that only negatively affects them, while also not being heard on other things such as like family court, right? I see all these things talking about, why are men so afraid to marry? It's like, you have the understanding entirely wrong. Men aren't afraid to marry. They're afraid of being divorced. They're not afraid of marriage and what it comes with. They're afraid of, well, what happens when it all goes wrong? All of these things that people just lack perspective on. But the Islam thing is a little wild. Let me go ahead if I can grab it here. You might want to share it so it looks clean though in the background there.
Which one are we talking about here?
So it's under Islam has taken over Texas, and then I have the video clip of an inside look, and it's from Amy Meck.
Okay, we'll put that up here. Let's see. And she's making me redo that. Okay, there we go. Amy Meck, let's see here. Alert Texas. 2 more radical imams have just announced their move to Texas to join the fight to take to make Texas the holiest place for Islam in the United States. Radical imams are moving in. Mega mosques are going up. Churches are being converted to mosques. Shadowy Islamic groups are quietly purchasing large swaths of land, and your elected officials silent. We know a lot of folks were coming across the southern border for the last 4 years that weren't from Mexico, right? Weren't from Central America. So I gotta wonder if this is kind of a result of what we been going through the last 4 years. But
right.
Islamic leaders are openly declaring victory. Quote, we thought Texas had cows, white people, and desert, but now we see Texas has Islam. This isn't immigration. This is hijara. I don't know. Islamic migration for conquest. This is replacement, not coexistence. They're not coming to join our way of life. They're coming to reshape it brick by brick, mosque by mosque, until Texas is unrecognizable. Learn from Europe. And that's a important quote, right? Or important little line right there. Factor, learn from Europe. Europe is, we talked about it just the other day. It's turned into a freaking hellhole for the locals, right? Women can't go out at night in certain areas, can't go out period in certain areas. Not the type of place that I want to raise kids in or anything like that, really. But they are aggressively targeting non-Muslims for conversion, handing out Qurans in restaurants, funded by a terror-tied group, ICNA. These people have a fear of Christians and Christian nationalism. Wait till the Muslims start putting Sharia law in your town. Then you're really going to see, you're really going to have something to fear, right? But these 2 radical imams, I'm not going to say their names, I don't know them, will expand Sharia, continue to build the Islamic infrastructure, and attract thousands of more Muslims to move to Texas. This is a mass coordinated effort by very powerful, well-funded radicals who are swarming North Texas with precision. This region, part of the DFW Metroplex, is now one of the most aggressively Islamized areas in the United States. Read my latest report here. So here we can play this video as well. Or should we play the whole video? It's 7 minutes.
Up to you, but it gives, it's kind of like a compilation. I'll just go back and forth just between all the Islamic influences. I watched it earlier and it was just mind blown by how bad it was. There's a longer video too that she'd put out. It's like 15 minutes, but it's her walking around, looking at all of the people who are pushing for Sharia law and Islam. Like Dallas has its own, it's like Dallas Muslim Center or something or other. Like they're getting their own institutions put in place to protect them, that hold their ideals and such. And that's why, again, this idea of having this whole, it's just this insane idea of that there is any kind of sense of like a melting pot, right? Like the culture is coming for each other. It's like, that's for one, like only ever been true via violent conquest. And it's just because you literally eliminate a huge portion of the fighting men who otherwise would have fought to protect their values.
Mhm.
When you're just importing them for status quo, the fight is on a whole different avenue. And they're all
Right.
vying for supremacy, especially between like the Abrahamic religions. I mean, these are all religions that view the others as being outright wrong. And, the whole thing is the line such as apostasy and such. Um, if you were to turn away from the faith or you were of another faith, it's outright like, viewed as bad, right? Same way Christians, they see someone as an unbeliever or believes a different faith, they want to proselytize to them, right? They want to evangelize to those people, convert them out of it. But then, this kind of reality that we try to ignore, which is the fact that it will result in the replacement of white people or the outright extinction of them. At the end of the day, already being
And
the global
Americans.
majority, right? And Americans in particular. And that's a whole other argument, right? Which is, what is it to be an American? This is things that Charlie Kirk's been getting pushed on, Vivek been getting pushed on, right? It means a lot more than just to like, believe in what America is, right? It's also to understand that your rights and values and everything that does make America what it is and what it once was the fact that it came from a Christ-breathed motivation and inspiration to outline the documents. First of all, everything that comes from that is America that governs it was originally, Christianity. Now it still is loosely, but a lot of that's been kind of taken apart, and we've only seen the downfall of America ever since. The same way that means more like there were a specific type of peoples in a type of culture that dominated this sphere. It's what Matt Walsh is recently getting into and getting attacked for as well too, which is it means more than just like, oh, I like America and I like their ideas. Because if that was the case, then why would you not see America getting replicated all over the world? And it's not that. It's because there is a peoples that is closely tied to the values and hold those values, fight for those values, and live and walk and breathe those values that makes America what it is. And so it means a lot more. You can't just adopt being an American. You can't just all of a sudden like be presented with the Constitution and now you're an American citizen. It's just not how it works. There's truth and value in the blood and soil and the sweat and tears and the genetic and biological and nurturing, all the environment, all the context matter. So just to kind of dilute America to like, you just have this idea. And so like, now you're an American, will be the downfall of American society if we don't kind of harden on what that is.
Yeah, I'm watching this conversation here in chat between Donnie and just me. I get what both of you guys are saying. I think generally the Christian church has become too accepting, but I think Christians are, just depends. There's still a gambit, right? I mean, just me is mentioning that, she's a pistol packing, strong Christian. It's not wavering, but that's not everybody. And Cindy even mentions there are 40,000 different ideologies of Christian religions. I don't know if it's 40,000, but they're not all going to agree. That's for sure. The main thing is the focus on Jesus, of course. Without Jesus, the Christian religion is nothing. And, that's the thing, that they've kind of painted this picture of Jesus being this kind, nice, we're talking about this in the Discord, uncool guy or whatever, because Christians are weak and whatever. But the reality is Jesus wasn't that. He hung out in the bars. He hung out with the riffraff.
Right.
He was unwavering as the Son of God, but he he was not soft by any means, right? And even up to his death and resurrection.
Well, yeah, I mean, I will say I ultimately agree with Donnie's point in large there. People don't understand just the absolute amount of insane, what's the right way to say this? The amount of actual kind of God-breathed inspiration that it took for the Crusades to even happen in the first place.
Right.
Because it is the case. Christianity long holds, and it took, hundreds of years of being attacked by an invading force that not only thrust them into the Dark Ages by taking over the Mediterranean Sea, and limiting port access, but also, I mean, we're talking about kidnappings. We're talking about, this is like some of the original like slave trades of Western and Eastern Europeans came from what led up to the Crusades, which was, there's a term for it, and I always forget what it's called, but essentially it was like 400 straight years of, Islam invading forces coming over and messing with Europeans, raiding, kidnapping, raping, that it took the Western, the Western Christendom to send a letter. I believe that's who it was. Western Christendom sent a letter to the Eastern Christendom during when they had originally had the opening split, and they had to write to each other, even though they staunchly disagreed with each other. They eventually saw a point where it was like, if we don't unite all of our Christian forces together and be unified and as militarily, we are going to get wiped off the face of the earth. Like the Islamic force is too unified, too organized, and too effective that we can't keep taking them on.
And too disciplined.
We'll say that again.
I said, and they're very disciplined in their faith. Their faith is what their life revolves around. It's very dedicated life to be a practicing Muslim. You know what I mean? It's the way they fast, the way they pray. It's a respectful way of if we had Christians as dedicated as Muslims are to the religion, the Christianity would be in a stronger place, in my opinion.
Right.
And that's the thing too, is I believe the Muslims, and we see it in, the history, like not even history going back to the Crusades, but they're on I believe it's even a part of what their Bible, the removal of the infidels, right? And so you're either Muslim or you're a slave or you're gone. You know what I mean? That's the type of conquering that is way more scarier, in my opinion, than any type of anything you hear from a Christian. Honestly, Christians generally, and that's why we have a weak, persona. We come off of too kind, too forgiving, this turn the other cheek mentality. Love the sinner, love the sinner, hate the sin. It's all true, but it's at the same time, it comes off as soft and so I get both sides of that argument there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to the point which it's actually been abused. That's essentially, it's ultimately what's happening. Christianity at its point right now is largely not only just failing itself and of its ultimate messages, but it's also failing to even be upheld by its own. You see that in the fact that there is just constant infighting happening in the Christian communities as well, because there is a very large, kind of theological battle occurring over people who have a misguided understanding and what I would consider largely a feminized, perverted form of Christianity versus what actual Christianity used to be. Reaching points with, they call them like the sewing circle, Christian group, which essentially did adopt what every atheist, kind of said about Christianity, which is, just to vaguely be nice, and that there's not any kind of pro principles to actually stand there, and that you should just always tolerate everything and never act on anything. All these kind of like lost ideals. And so I largely pin a lot of different things, and this is always, an entirely different discussion. But the main point being is that, at a whole, when it comes to the organization and it comes to having to, unify Christians as like a force against something, it's like there's not too many mechanisms for that, because we're already separated between, Catholics versus Orthodox versus Protestants. And then, coming from the Protestants comes all the other denominations that, with like Mormonism, the hardcore Lutherans, Methodists, Baptists. Now there's Northern Baptists, Southern Baptists, Anglicans, Presbyterians, all of these different. And so there's once again, it's the same situation, right? It's Islam's knocking on the door of all of Western society, and they're not doing it violently with the sword. Now they are stabbing a lot of people in the UK, don't get me wrong, and taking a lot of their children.
They're raping a lot of women and everything else, or sexual assaulting, I should say.
And so now it's a pressure battle. It's like a Cold War of the Crusades. It's a cold crusade. And that's what we're seeing, right? Is where are we going to see a bunch of the actual, Christian men stand up together and unify, against that force and say, hey, actually, There is justification for one to defend itself in their beliefs, where Christianity is not just tolerance. You don't just sit here and tolerate things. There are all these kind of normative measures and natural measures that are actually kind of, baked into the cake of what is logical and what is good and what is to be truth, that we've all like just walked away from. And a lot of that does come from the pruning of powers of the church, and everyone kind of, churches where you go to like, just have maybe a sense of community anymore. It really doesn't have the same kind of actual power, authority, and influence that it once did. And while lacking that as a whole, that's why you do see Islam individuals or Muslims really just coming over here and doing whatever they want, is because the Christians can't find the backbone inside of them, let alone a church message or sermon that they've heard in the last 25, 30 years that would even allow them or give them any kind of insight to a way they should defend themselves against some kind of ideological overtaking. And that's what we don't want to see, right? We don't want to see Christian, America become an Islamic nation. That would, and it's just by nature and by definition, not America anymore.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And especially if it's just handed over. It's one thing if it's conquered. It's another thing if it's just handed over by weak people that would never toe the line. They just draw the line and say, hey, don't cross that boundary, wave my don't tread on me flag, and cede ground constantly. And then over decades, and that's the thing, they're playing the long game. Muslims have said they are playing the long game. They have more kids than the rest of the world, essentially.
Right.
They're building their armies through their families, and they're a very dedicated, religion. And they believe that they are the right religion, and they want to force it onto people, or those people not be around.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where we must defend our country and our culture as the way that the founding fathers wrote the Constitution and intended it, which is from a Christian baseline, essentially.
Right.
Cindy Seigan asks, but let me ask you this: do you want all Americans to be forced to be Christians? No, I don't want people to be forced to be Christians, unlike the Muslims want people to be forced to be Muslims. They sit there and they play their music on, in the Sharia law. If you don't worship when you're supposed to worship, if they play the music in the town at certain amounts of time and stuff like that. No, nobody wants people to, or at least for me, I'm not saying force people to be Christians. That's not what loving Jesus is and being saved is. But I want society to have, I want culture to be like Andrew Wilson has mentioned it before and how we talked about in the past. I want it to be the norm. If you, cheat on your wife or whatever, I want society to come down on you. If you are wanting to divorce, I want society to come down on you. I want, there's so many examples, but I want that Christian values to be the values that everybody revolves their belief and their daily lifestyle around. What's cool for the culture, not this woke being not this woke promoting everybody to be gay, get an abortion. You can be whatever you want. That is an unhealthy society. That is feeding the mentally ill when it comes to the trans movement. That's not healthy for the longevity of a society. If you want to go down that path, you will eventually become somebody's slave. And
Right.
the person that is the religion that is going to conquer will be the Muslims at the rate that everybody's going at right now. So if Christianity doesn't, try to make a move to become some of the social norms, we're destined to lose our culture, lose our American way. And it won't take that long. It'll be just a generation away.
Well, I think America's already well past the point of losing its Christian way. We're definitely not a Christian nation as it sits right now. Only kind of if you look at you blow the dust off and you look at what maybe was here a few years ago. Um, the main question there is, would you force people to be Christian? You ultimately can't. Donnie kind of nailed it. The individual has to choose Christ, and that goes to a question of
Right.
free will, right? That's kind of like a little bit of what they get wrong in Islam, right? Forcing people to live that religion by the sword kind of eliminates a free will portion of, choosing to accept it in and of themselves, right?
Right. And then in their
without any court
practice as well,
ruling.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but in their practice as well, they make their wives cover their heads. That's abuse in this country. We don't do that shit in America. Women can walk around with their faces and their hair exposed. That is not that is not how we do it here.
Yeah, well, on that actual particular notion, I'm not, because I'm not an expert by any means, wish I was. But I don't, as far as I understand, that actual aspect is not all too unbiblical. Although it's not a major point, and nor is it a kind of like a law set to be had here. But that in particular, it would be one of the things in Islam that I don't think isn't like too far of a stretch. You kind of look at older cultures, right? You look at Mennonites and Amish, they still do have their women cover their heads. That's not just a Islamic thing. Head coverings for women has long been a very, very popular and widely used thing through cultures, all because they do view it, because it was a lot more violent in history. If as a wife, you respected your husband, you wouldn't want to openly kind of be a target, right? You wouldn't want to just like not wear clothing and kind of, flaunt your beauty, as it were, with no head coverings and such. Because now you're making yourself a target. Now a mother may no longer be able to be with her children. And again, this is going back to a lot more of a very, very violent, conquestic earth, hundreds of years ago. And so many cultures actually participated in the head coverings and such, and covering their women, because it was a defensive thing, right? If you were making yourself a target to be openly picked up and raped by another tribe or another group of people, it's like you've ultimately just hurt everyone else in that tribe now. So at different times for different things, right? So not to say like I care too much about the head coverings there, but I think with Islam in particular, it's less about how they treat their women, but more so about their faith just entirely being on the back of Jesus's works, and the fact that they do kind of demean and take away the divinity of who he was. They do have some alternate twistings of scripture. They do mention Allah to have like different hands and feet and all these other kind of weird things that don't make sense under a microscope. When you do see clips from Sam Shamoon or Andrew Wilson kind of pointing out these inconsistencies that exist in the Quran. That again, it's a huge topic. There's so much you could get into in that. And so, sorry to derail into all of that, but
you're good.
The main thing being is the fact of this idea that, these cultures can just coexist and like, we'll just have both. It's like, it's just outright retarded. They will always vie for dominance over the other, especially when it's deeply written into all of them that I'm right, you're wrong, right? Like if we go very, very basic and be very reductive, it's not going to last long, especially when cultures, there is no equilibrium. There are going to be some cultures that obviously have a lot more prominence and influence than others. And so if you're in the minority group, you would fight for your own self-existence. You would always try to promote your own values. That way you would be against anything that would be enshrined in law that would go against what you believe. And so to act as if like they could just exist as is just dumb.
Right.
Especially with Islam, right? Islam is not the religion that was, the founding fathers didn't, George Washington didn't like quote Muhammad and be like, well, what does the Quran say over here? No, they didn't. They looked at their Bibles. And that's where they got the inspiration to not only be the men that they were and take the actions that they took, but also what they did looking forward for inspiration for how to govern the country, what the representative, form of that republic should look like. What should be enshrined, what should be respected, who should have the rights, why should they have the rights, where should the rights be at, and all of those things involved. It was all from a Christian background. And like Tim Pool and Milo kind of got on a point not too long ago about but a lot of the reason why it's like not explicit like this was said by Christian this and this Christian this and Christian that is because it would be like a fish noticing water. Everyone was Christian in that time period. So it was like less of a thought to be like, well, we should explicitly name these things Christian because everybody was Christian. So it wasn't even like a thought process that they were encountering as they were writing out laws and informing the government. And where should that inspiration for morality come from? It was like an unquestionable thing. It's like, obviously it's Christian, right? Not even a thought that it'd be anything but that.
Yeah, definitely. Just me misspelling my name over here. Whirl.
Whirl. Whirl. Yeah. Say that 5 times fast.
She corrected it. She corrected it. Let's see here. Let's see here. Where did it say? Saw something.
Yeah,
Well,
check out the tinfoilhat.com section. House posts a lot of his articles in there.
Yeah.
For anyone who wants to be who wants to have a conversation with house.ai.
Right. So I guess we'll skip over the silent riot thing. We're just running down to the last couple minutes here. Just real quickly, we touched on this earlier. Let me pull this up. This is amazing. Eric Daughtry. I don't know how you say it. Depends on the person how you say that
Big
last
soda
name.
Show.
Doherty. What'd you say?
Said big soda show. That's all I know.
Right. Posted this, says, this is amazing. Ron DeSantis, Florida was sitting on almost $900 million in federal money. We're not accepting it because we're not changing our policies. I met with Elon Musk. They were like, you want to give the money back? Yeah, we'll accept it. They phoned Treasury, and within 30 minutes, we had a plan to return it. We have initiated that. So we'll play this real quick. It's 2.5 minutes.
Even figure out how to do it. Now you met with Elon Musk, it's going to happen. Talk about the promise of Doge and just that example of how messed up things have become.
So just for to what he's referring to, during the Biden administration, we rejected federal funds on a variety of things because they had strings attached. So some of the road funding, we had to do all the DEI and woke.
Is that loud enough for you guys to hear it? It's really quiet on my end.
If I hit my wife in the mouth and make her stop talking, I can hear it.
Policies, which are
It is pretty quiet though.
Okay.
to our state's policy. We had kind of led the fight against that stuff. Now it's more fashionable to be against it. When we were doing it, we were kind of having an uphill battle.
Dang.
So we did it, and we told the Department of Transportation and the Biden administration, here's $350 million or however much it is. We're not using it, and they're like, we don't know how to take it back. They literally did not know how to take back the money. Same thing on refugee money to send back, I believe, to HHS. They didn't do. So I'm like sitting on almost $900 million. We're not going to accept it because we're not going to change our behavior.
Earl's daughter says, Atlas, I'll cover my head when you give up the diabetes juice. It might be sugar free.
No, it's this is Diet Mountain Dew. Trust me, I would have a Diet Coke or a energy drink if my wife listened. No, I'm just messing. They didn't have anything at the store near us when I went there yesterday. I unfortunately took that as a last resort. It is funny though.
Right.
But deal.
So let's send it.
Yeah, sorry. I think that's just so quiet. You guys can't hear it. I think that's I'm gonna just quit playing that. I feel like I'm just sitting here in the quiet. Dang it! I wish that was louder. I hate when they upload at like such low volumes. Don't they know social media yet?
Yeah, well, a lot of what you'll find with these guys who do the clippings and such, and they do it poorly, is because they are screen recording. They're screen recording like desktop audio versus like actually screen recording the source audio, and so like it's never. That's why you see so many of these clips we try to put up here are like just so quiet. Is because they recorded at the volume their screen was recording it at versus the volume that the source audio was actually recorded at.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's super annoying. You see it all the time now because people are trying to get the fastest clip up so they can be the one that gets quoted and get all the views in it, and that's why you get like pretty rough audio.
TNT says we blew his speakers, cranked it up so he could hear it, and then we started talking. Yeah, sorry, I'm just not gonna play it. I don't like I don't like doing that to you guys. It's my bad. My bad there.
Yeah. Seems like I'm kind of an asshole. Can I have a conversation with my wife? I appreciate you asking me and respecting me and not talking to my wife behind my back, but no, you cannot have a conversation with her. It's a joke for the most part. Anyways, she actually beats me.
I could hear. Yeah, JB was talking to me. He said he could hear the video if we weren't talking. He wasn't talking to you, just me.
That's funny.
He wasn't talking to you, just me. That's funny. No fighting in chat. Over that. You guys can fight. I don't care.
Yeah, it's like the Elmo meme where it's just fire burning around him.
We're iron sharpens iron around here, so
Yeah. Yeah,
Let's
do not go in the Discord if you are soft.
Let's see here. So, well, that's pretty much all we got. Without getting into this whole new stupid trend, the silent riot or whatever these Democrats are trying to do.
Yeah, which I spent 30 minutes trying to figure out what they were protesting, and I gave up.
I know. I was trying to figure it out too, and I'm like, I see a bunch of videos with people being in solidarity talking about the silent riot, but excuse me, but they're not. That's all they're saying.
Yeah,
So it's just stupid trend, right? I've seen some funny jokes today about Elon Musk should buy the IRS to was it the IRS building so that Democrats will burn it down, so the liberals will try to burn it down. I also saw a funny meme today that was Trump should identify as a woman so that he can officially be the first woman president. And I think that'd be hilarious. He should just come out and start saying he's a woman. The left would completely melt down.
Yeah, it'd be funny. Now you have to prove to me that he's not a woman.
Right. Donnie says Miss Shepard seems like a classy lady. I can't imagine he talking to shit more than is called for. Yeah, that's right, Jamie. We'll fight when we damn well please. You guys
Right.
will.
Amen. I actually enjoy arguing. I think more than I enjoy having what's the word? Cordial conversation.
Right.
I think arguing gets your mind working a bit more.
Yeah, it does. It challenges you with, you know what I mean? You wanna win. So when somebody brings, especially if it's a good argument, I'm gonna steal a phrase from David Pac-Man. If it's a good faith debate, it's definitely growing opportunity.
Right.
Donnie, if you're soft in the Discord, someone will call you out, like the furry that's in there, or the other person that came in.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Argue your points in a politically based Discord. Right. Well, it should be expected. Especially even if we all agree, like even that's what I was saying earlier on the last show, or even a couple of shows before that. You know, I'm not here for a long time, I'm only here for a good time. I think it's inevitable that the further we get in a Republican kind of dominated environment, the closer you'll be able to see the division between those who are MAGA and those who are in this Christian nationalist community versus those who are on just the pure dissident right community. It'll be a lot more noticeable, especially when we all have different ideas of what we want for the future.
Right.
And so it was nice doing the Big Tent thing, I guess, this time around. Obviously, because anyone with greater than 15 IQ can look that this giant man in the bathroom is not a woman. That's something easy we can all kind of, side up against and not agree with.
Right.
But I think when you're looking forward where maybe more of MAGA wants to just be only reactionary and go return to some level of what they deem to be normal from like 2005, that's where you'll see the differences between like the CN community, where they're like, no, we want it all back and then some, right? We want all this gone. We want the 10 commandments in classrooms. We want this enshrined in law. We want the freedom of religion to represent what it was more closely recognized to represent, pre court case rulings in like early 1900s. All of those things. And so that's why it's kind of inevitable, right? Like I do appreciate everything that's, all the discussion that goes on, but ultimately, like I'm here to argue my specific points and my specific values and I call them subjective, but for argument's case, right? But ultimately it's like, that's what I want to be in, right? Get to a point where yeah, the left is retarded. We got rid of them. They're gone. Those ideas are dead. We had them for a nice time. Biden was a cool president, whatever. It's cool Joe Biden licking his ice cream, but that's gone now. It's like, now let's move forward, right? And now we'll see like a new iteration. We'll see, the Overton window even changing a bit more, right? Where people may
Right.
view Donald Trump and maybe the orbiting mega group as like more left wing, where they look at people like myself
Right.
and Vincent James and Joel Webben and like Stone Choir. Like now they're the right wing. And so now we've kind of moved the Overton window a bit more, and we're just moving it back closer to what I would imagine is a bit more realistically representative of what the Overton window should be.
Right. I agree. And, when it comes to the big tent thing, yeah, we needed that to get Trump elected. That was a huge thing. But it's also, we got to keep in mind, there is a lot of strong separation. People have spent their lives on the left, and they're still Democrats. They went out and voted for Trump. I mean, I think it was just this last week, Andrew Schultz like tried to act like he was making it official that he's like not a Democrat anymore. But if you watch the interview that he did with Joe Rogan on the Joe Rogan podcast, they're both talking from a Democrat perspective, saying, like I can't remember exactly specifically what they were talking about, but I was like, these two dudes are still both Democrats. They just couldn't get with Kamala. They can't get with the times today. Common sense and normalcy just have their limits, right? And the Overton window has gone so far left that it's put people in the middle. It's put people that were on the left a little bit onto the right, onto the far right, and it's just my wife's talking really loud in the other room, so it's distracting. I can hear over my noise canceling headphones.
Somebody needs some Sharia law in their household.
But you can just tell that a lot of people will go back to being Democrats, in my opinion, as soon as they get a not Kamala Harris crazy woke campaign, right? If a Democrat could come out here and say, yeah, a man's a man, a woman's a woman, all this other stuff is literally gender dysphoria. It's, all the gayness is anti-human, and start calling things out like it is. The Republican is going to have a hard time going up against that, because we're going to lose a lot of those people in the middle that came over this time. So that's why this is so important, to take as much ground back as we can right now. Got to get these deportations escalated, and put gay marriage back to the states, put so many things back to the states, and let the people actually decide. And hopefully the people aren't so brainwashed that they'll just do like what the Californians do and just vote for the black mayor because she's black.
Right. Well, I mean, imagine
like we saw in
right?
the wake of all these wildfires. That's why I mentioned that.
So imagine, how Trump comes on the scene, right? And everyone's got the normal, like, political, like, they all say they're really, really, like, nice and prepared speeches. They're all, like, kind to each other. And then Trump comes up and he's like, yeah, because she'd be in jail. And everyone's like, whoa, like, breath of fresh air. Now imagine it's JD Vance versus, like, I don't know, say some random guy, but say they're going against each other, and this random guy is like, yeah, JD, except I think you're fat and ugly. Right. And like saying to her stuff like that, like, you can't compete with it. Like, once the next person comes in and they're like, yeah, I really don't like the gays. They come up, like, the young men, I'm telling you, people are not ready for it. But the young men, the younger than 25-year-old men, will be like, I'm voting for that guy. That's the winner in my book, right? And so now we've opened this open Pandora's box to that. You're going to get a lot more like men who are going to feel a lot more comfortable going on the political realm, and if they even get the chance to be there, they come up and they're like, yeah, JD Vance had some good policies, but he still supported homosexuals. And so on that regard, you don't see eye to eye. You're going to see people who are going to begin to open those cracks the further you go to the right wing on the Overton window there.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff I'm rooting for. Like, yeah, call them out there, dude. Get up on stage, dude, and talk about how you don't actually go to church on Sunday every month, and that you've been a Catholic for a year, and like, all of these things. Like, that's the kind of stuff I want to do. Like, I
love
want
to see the public come out in unison and shame that person and be like, yeah, what are you doing? You aren't representative of us as a Christian community or this or that. Yeah, that'd be great.
Right. And that's what I'm fighting for. Like, that's what I want to ultimately see in my lifetime.
Right.
Hopefully. Right. It's like, see stuff like that, and less about like this whole, like, I guess, really whatever it is has been, which is just the status quo. Like, oh, you took money from
Just
these
don't tread on
people.
me.
Right. You were just all of these, just I guess more like really, really basically easy, like to digest ideals. I want to see the guy go up there and do the Trump energy all over again. And he
Right.
comes up and he was like, "Yeah, man, I wanted to like you, Trump, but you have this friend and what's her name, Bruce Jenner, like things like that. Like I want to see that kind of stuff, right? Where it's like people. I mean, imagine you get someone like, dude, let me just imagine Myron Gaines runs for president.
Mhm.
And it's as outlandish as I imagine that to be.
I think Stephen A. Smith is going to run on the Republican ticket at some point.
I think that's a real thing. I mean, I imagine you see that though. You see it's Myron Gaines versus Stephen A. Smith in the Republican primary.
Mhm.
And Stephen A. Smith is coming off the whole like, well, I think Democrats need to get off the plantation, yada yada yada. And then you're gonna get Myron Gaines, who's like who's going up there and he's like, yeah, but what about Israel, man? And like people are just gonna like, there's gonna be huge kind of changes that people aren't going to be expecting, and it's gonna be a lot more of a chaos in a news storm. Obviously, I don't ever think Myron Gaines would run for president, but I think someone who would loosely fit the next mold, which is just another step to the right wing, right? Someone who is to the right of all of those people comes onto the scene. I
Right.
don't think people be ready for the amount of support they'll probably likely get if they follow that up and match it with the energy they have while they speak too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So I go over here. JB mentions that I'm a strong man that just ordered a bidet. I will say,
Man,
as a bidet owner, you won't regret it.
right?
You will not regret it, especially if you live in a. Well, I know where you live, but for somebody that lives down south, myself, where swamp ass is a real thing, a bidet will save your life.
It's funny. I personally think it's a little gay, but whatever floats your boat, I guess. Until this nation's Christian, Jay, then you're on the list. Under Christian nationalism, bidets are banned.
Right. It's funny. My mom's trying to point out that my brother, that I never really like to talk about, she's bringing out my personal stuff. But yeah, my brother is in his 30s, thinks he's a woman. Like I said, gender dysphoria, is mentally ill. Apparently, they would rather, the left would rather cater to, individuals so they can be whoever they are rather than the person they were created to be by God. So I don't know. It's just stupid. I'm not gonna subscribe to that. I've changed that guy's diaper. He he has a penis and balls, and as Trump just declared, there are only two sexes, men and women, and that's just the way that it is. Sorry, Mom.
Man. And I'm going to clip that and it'll be on the show tomorrow. No, it's funny. I mean, ultimately, I mean, not on that degree, but I can relate. I unfortunately have, a brother in a situation I wish he wasn't in, but it's just something that affects the family, and there's correlations that happen there. And
Right.
obviously it affects people.
I don't love him any less, I don't love him any less. It's just, I don't agree. And I don't like how people cater to the mental illness.
Right.
Sometimes you just need to say, no, that's wrong. That's bad.
Dude, the comment just got me though. Sitting on a bidet, working out with the shake weight. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we just call that being gay. Like, say you're gay without mentioning that you're gay. It's that sentence right there. Dirty Money said, I like that idea though. For real, it's that bad. Myron Gaines, he preaches stuff kind of like, trust me, like if I had to choose between like Myron Gaines and JD Vance, like I'm slamming the buzzer as hard as I can for Myron Gaines because I just want to see that. But deep down it is, I am an accelerationist at heart, right? I have a hard time even foreseeing that this kind of system get fully stripped down to where it needs to be. especially when you look at the fact that like we're estimated to spend $6 trillion over the next year, but we're only going to make $4 trillion in revenue. It's like we're still on the same path that we've been on, which is the dollar is just dying, and we cannot find a way to not stop spending money with the government. That's why I agree with Thomas Massey at large. It's because long term, it's still not looking good.
Right. Dirty Money, I wanted to say thanks for shouting me out today on your channel. Appreciate that. Man, you went hard. He streamed for like 10 hours straight today. He had over 800 likes on his stream, man. Good job. Proud of you, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, Dirty Money for real.
Yeah. Well, Mom, I get my mental illness or lack of from my dad's side. So
That's funny. That's funny.
I'm just teasing.
World's put me in a bad spot here. It's like, do I just ignore his mom's comments, or do I jump in with Tyler and start talking trash to her? Like, what am I supposed to be doing right with my hands?
She knows we disagree on stuff, and you know, she's saying it in chat, so I don't have to bring it out. She's the one mentioning stuff, so just is
That's
what
funny.
it is.
But yeah, I was gonna say, was there anything else you wanted to cover? We already made it past the 2 hour mark.
No,
Today, actually flew by.
Yeah, it went by really fast. No, I think this was a good stream. I appreciate everybody for being here. You guys have been cracking me up in chat. The bidet thing got me. Just real quick, I talk about this channel called Sunday Cool, and they make these improv songs up every once in a while. I don't know if it's like something they do every show or whatever, but they broke out in a song one time, and they were talking about being a man with a bidet, and it was just so funny. They're both like, the two guys are singing back and forth, and the other third guy's playing the guitar. And it just had me cracking up. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to find it. If I can find it, I'll post it in the Discord for everybody to see, because it was funny. It's worth watching. But they just cracked me up. JB, you won't regret that. That's what I'm saying. You will not regret. And you can see Mom comes hot. Mom comes in heated. So
is that for me?
I don't know, probably.
That's funny. We'll invite you on. We can actually debate live on air. I'll actually set it out, and we can actually just have Whirl and you argue.
Evil Elmo mentions, question: when the proctologist gives you an exam, should he have a hand on each shoulder? No, that's you need to get a new proctologist if that's the case. Jamie says, damn dude, I like your mom. Let's see here. I love butterflies or ninjas. Yeah, that's the guy. Sunday Cool. Yeah, that's cool. I like those dudes too. They're rather entertaining. I like how they talk. I like the topics that they talk about too. I was thinking that we should maybe start getting into some of that type of stuff here, just for fun. I know we're always so like serious about Christianity and politics, but talking about aliens and, you know, history and you know, the cryptids and stuff like that. I love all that stuff. So maybe we can start incorporating some of that stuff in the show too. But yeah, with that, you guys, I appreciate everybody for being here. As we mentioned, we do have a Discord. That link is down in the description. So make sure you join the Discord if you are a Discord type person. Also, make sure, of course, hit the like button, subscribe to the channels. Once again, we're trying to get everybody off of America First TV and off of Atlas Thugged over to the Jar Openers podcast. So please, if you're watching on America First TV, my channel, make sure you click that link down in the description for the Jar Openers podcast channel. Subscribe over there and look for us there in the future. That's where the majority of chat is happening. That's why, like, if you're wondering, like, where's all this chat they're putting on the screen? It's because they're actually chatting in the Jar Openers podcast channel. And so that's just to try to help the algorithm let people know where they should actually be sent. And it helps us consolidate all the chat, all the likes, all the shares to one place. And it's just it's better for the future outlook of the channel and the show. And it protects us a little bit as well. If we happen to talk about something that they deem you can't talk about after the fact, they go back and they try to demonetize a channel or something like that. It's all separated, so we won't lose everything from every channel. So anyways, a little insight into how YouTube operates there. But also we're on Rumble, on X, all that good stuff. Appreciate everybody for being here. And if you have anything else, we'll get out of here.
That's all. Christ is King. Smash the like button. 1 like equals 1 woman was put back in the kitchen successfully. Hopefully we can also deport Kash Patel at some point this year, and Pam Bondi can find her way back into a Florida kitchen. Appreciate everybody for being here, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you guys. Christ is King.
With war rolling at the start, we here to bring the truth. Jar open this podcast, we breaking through the fake news. They try to silence us, but we will be subdued. We're bearded alpha males here to save the youth. Spitting fire on the mic with the bass Christian takes. Exposing the lies, keeping the demons at bay. We ain't afraid to speak up, we won't be swayed. Jar open this podcast, where the truth is laid. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling atlas up, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. We ain't playing games, we're on a mission to awaken the masses with our intuition. Pulling out the corruption with no inhibition. Draw open this podcast, sparking a revolution. We're not afraid to stand tall in a world full of deceit. We're the voice of reason, bringing light to the street. Keeping it real, never missing a beat. Jar openers podcast, where the truth meets the heat. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling atlas up, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. Jar open this podcast, where the truth will never cease. Join us on the journey to bring back peace. We're rolling atlas up, fearless in our release. Jar open this podcast, where the lies will decrease.